Hey folks, this is Kelani. It seems as though the Broken Shore has gone from an exciting new addition with lots to do, to just another zone where you knock out a few world quests. With the Broken Shore making up a large chunk of patch 7.2, we were supposed to get a whole bunch of story quests which unfold over time between now and the opening of the Tomb of Sargeras, work towards your flying achievement, exciting Legion invasions, new farming options and catch-up mechanics, as well as powerful bonuses for constructing the Mage Tower, Nether Disruptor and the Command Center. So why does it feel like we haven't got all that much to do? Let's have a look at what went wrong in 7.2. Now, if you're going to do time-gated story quests, there needs to be enough every week to keep you interested and invested in what's going on. If people stop paying attention halfway through because the story isn't going anywhere, what's the point in telling the story? We haven't really received a great deal of content each week to get through. We've built a few buildings, explored the Broken Shore, and recruited some new champions. That's all fine and dandy, but the amount of content on the Broken Shore has been minuscule. Recruiting our champions took place on the Broken Isles, for the most part, with a simple quest turn-in on the Broken Shore when we were done. The last quest, which we just got, was to hand over 2,500 nether shards to Khadgar. If you already had the shards, you just interacted with him twice and you were done. If you're going to drag something out over 11 weeks, at least make sure there's something half decent to do each time the reset rolls around. We've made our beachhead and I assume we're gathering resources, but apart from that it feels like we're just sat around chilling. We already broke down the tomb's door, why don't we take a peek inside? It doesn't have to open fully yet, but sending us in for some recon missions or gathering intel or just something that isn't already covered by the world quests would be great. Hopefully it ramps up in the weeks to come, but so far it's been a far cry from what we got in the Suramar quests leading up to the Nighthold. Pathfinder Part 2 was another huge sell for patch 7.2, and one that most people were excited for. We finally get to unlock flying. I'm not too sure if this achievement was thought through all that much, and it sure didn't get too much testing on the PTR because it was basically given out for free. We actually had one whole section of the achievement removed before it hit live servers, which was tied to the whole story being completed, meaning you'd have to get through all the time gating we were just talking about. That left Pathfinder Part 1, Reputation, exploring the Broken Shore and completing an invasion in every zone. That was great, until the first few invasions went up, one while most folk were at work and then another when they were asleep. I'm pretty sure it only took 2 invasion spawns for Blizzard to admit it was a bit of a wonky system and remove it from the Pathfinder requirements. Exploring the Broken Shore was easy and we had months to get Pathfinder Part 1. That meant the only thing stopping us from flying right away was the Legion Fall rep grind. Said Reputation was also gated quite heavily, but a few sneaky chaps figured out that you could endlessly chest farm, made even easier when the Mage Tower was up, to grind out your reputation if you had the time to put in. Some of these guys farmed chests for hours on end until they had enough Legion Fall war supplies to get revered. Now obviously that's their choice to grind mindlessly for days to get something faster, but having a reputation which serves almost no other purpose be gated so heavily feels pretty bad. Outside of chest farming, the only other way to get reputation faster was to get the rep token missions, which were entirely RNG whether you would see one or not. I know I got about 5 tokens overall before I hit revered, and I know people who got 1 or 2, and one of my guildmates got 15. That sheer luck of getting the right mission at the right time meant he got his rep and thus flying several days earlier than everyone else. If it's going to be a grind, that's one thing, but can we please keep the RNG out of at least one part of the game? It's getting a little crazy at this point. I mentioned the Mage Tower making chests easier to farm, but that's not all they did. The first Mage Tower that went up gave you the chance of extra AP tokens while doing dungeons and raids. I would once again have to ask if any of this was tested properly, as the US servers went crazy for one night of farming, clearing out mythic, heroic, and even speed clearing normals to net huge AP gains. It would have been awesome if that was the intended power of the buff, but it got nerfed pretty heavily soon after. The extra AP tokens for completing world quests worked a little better, but the current buff we have is a little baffling. When you compare extra artifact power or extra reputation with water walking, it's a bit of a weird choice. It's basically useless for a few classes because they already have water walking, and you can get the effect via a potion anyways. It just feels a bit out of place, especially when there's only really one place you'd use water walking to get to, and that's the Harpy Island. It also comes at a time when more and more people are unlocking flying, which is the icing on the cake. It just doesn't feel like a powerful buff or even beneficial half the time, so every time this comes up with the Mage Tower, we're kind of just out of luck. When the command center came up for the very first time, the super special lucrative challenge mission rewarded a basic AP token. Thankfully that was also changed pretty quickly, but it begs the question why it went live with what seemed like a placeholder reward. Getting a free legendary follow item from the command center was pretty cool, and it's always nice to have the extra help around the Broken Shore with its passive bonuses. I'd say the command center so far feels like it actually provides some decent bonuses baseline without having to worry about the extra special part that changes. The Nether Disruptor has been a little less eventful, with the bonuses it provides being more in the alright category. The world bosses are definitely nice, but the way it interacts with a weekly reset is kind of annoying. There are people advocating for waiting on building the Nether Disruptor so we can cheese the reset to get 2 world boss kills, which seems a little exploity, but nothing has really been said about how it should work. The extra Nether Shard bonus was also quite nice because it made various farming methods viable again, but we'll get to that next. Overall, it feels like you get a bit more out of turning in the resources to build these buildings and get your little bag of goodies than what you actually get from the buildings themselves. Now, the currency of the Broken Shore is Nether Shards, and there used to be quite a few ways to farm them. Any monster on the Broken Shore could drop Nether Shards, which led to us ignoring the place we were supposed to farm them. It was simply more efficient to farm faster respawning mobs or the elites near the Tomb of Sargeras than playing around with the Centenax event. The fix for that was to remove Nether Shards from everything except the Centenax mobs, which kind of sucked. Then the Centenax went through a whole bunch of changes, first being buffed to a pretty awesome farming system and then nerfed to the point where hardly anyone farms it anymore. It used to be really easy to keep portals going and keep monsters respawning so you could farm to your heart's content. Now you run out of beacons way faster than you can acquire them, which makes it incredibly inefficient. Right now the best way to farm Nether Shards is probably just flying or running around the island looking for chests, especially when the Mage Tower is up. If you can gather a bunch of people who already have tons of beacons, the Centenax might be worth doing, just barely, but I see more and more people just vendoring the beacons now that we get a few gold for them. This becomes a huge problem when you want to make use of the gear catch-ups in place on the Broken Shore because they all revolve around Nether Shards. Getting to 850 item level is pretty easy with the Dauntless tokens being super cheap and they drop from rares and chests anyway, but the Relinquished tokens are 5k Nether Shards each. They do provide 880 gear and it can roll into some rather powerful items such as the Unstable Arcano Crystal or even a small chance at legendaries, and I guess having these super accessible would be a small problem, but if people aren't actively farming the shards for these items, then are they really working as a catch-up mechanic anyway? One other source of Nether Shards is the Legion invasions on the Broken Isles. Apart from their wacky time schedule, which we already touched on, they do their job really well. It gives you a break from the standard world quests available in a zone, gives you more reason to actually do the world quests in any given zone, and rewards Nether Shards at a pretty decent rate. It's just a shame about how often they're popping up, and once you go through one of them, it gets really repetitive really quickly. Even though it feels like the Broken Shore is only useful for world quests, I'm actually enjoying the variety in the world quests, and some of them are genuinely fun. I definitely think it's a step above the Broken Isles world quests, and I'm happy that the system is constantly being added to and evolved upon. The world quest giving you free keys for the gambling chests is a cool little addition too. All in all, I think 7.2 aimed to do quite a lot, and some of it just wasn't tested very thoroughly, but I wonder if that's a side effect of Blizzard wanting to push patches faster. It's always been a worry that if we get faster content, that it won't be as polished and there won't be as much of it, which definitely seems to apply to 7.2 and the Broken Shore. I'm curious to see how the patch cycle will continue after we get 7.2.5 out of the way, so we can look forward to 7.3 and Argus. Hopefully we'll see less questionable decisions and a more well-rounded patch, even if we have to wait a few more weeks. But that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. Let me know what you think of 7.2 down in the comments section, and if you have any questions or queries, feel free to leave those as well, or hop on over to Discord. We have a server at discord.gg/Kelani, great place to come ask questions or just hang out. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.